We will begin with Troy Rank. Go ahead.
Daniel, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, I'm at a ballpark right now, so I love the game. And when you started throwing again this off season, when did you start to allow yourself, and you were a mental skill coach, allow yourself to believe this could be possible? Was there a moment, an epiphany, or was it over the course of time that you said, holy smokes, I might be able to get back in it?
Yeah, I've told the story a few times now, and it's going back to last year. My job with the Diamondbacks, working with players mostly, on the mental side of the game. I always stayed on the field just because that's where I was comfortable. Wanted to connect with guys shagging during batting practice, whether it's out early throwing for the pitcher. So I was always out there, and like to grab a glove and a ball and play catch. It's a good way to connect with guys and kind of develop relationships. So I think it was like maybe middle of last year, working in that role. Was playing catch with some of our, I guess, AAA and big league guys over there with the Diamondbacks, and a couple of them just, we'd play catch and they'd be like, "Are you letting it go? Because like it's coming out pretty good." And I'd be like, I was just having fun, and I finally didn't have the pressure of trying to throw strikes, and I was able to just help other people and try to make that my job instead of trying to fix myself. So I think. I knew it felt better playing catch, but when they started saying, "Hey, it's coming out pretty good, like you need to give it another shot," and I just laugh it off, and mostly just tell you, "Hey, yeah, playing catch is one thing, but getting on a mound and doing it to a big league hitter is a whole different story." So it kind of progressed, but it planted a little seed in my head when I had other big league pitchers saying, "Hey, the ball's coming out really good. Like, how you feeling?" And took that in the off season and kind of kept throwing just for fun, but still probably wouldn't have put more than a 1% chance of trying to pitch again. Just wanted to do it for my own kind of personal, just wanted to see what it felt like to get on a mound again. And I continued to kind of surpass my own expectations. And by January, I was on a mound. My brother was there. My dad was there. We were in Charlotte, North Carolina, throwing to a catcher, and I was throwing in mid-90s, throwing strikes with ease, and I hadn't done that in 8 years. So that's when I was like, okay, I think I might need to give this some serious consideration.
All right, Nick Grote, go ahead.
Hey, Daniel, on that last day at Salt River, before everything was shut down, I was standing next to you, I think, when you walked out, and you sort of turned and said to some people who were standing there with us, like, it was nice meeting you all. I think you were being a little jokey, but you just arrived, and then they shut everything down. Were you worried that might have just been the taste for you and that was it? I mean, what were you thinking at the time, and how excited were you eventually to come back?
What was the last part of the question?
And then how comfortable were you, or how excited were you to eventually come back to Coors Field to, when everything started?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a weird year for everybody, so myself included. I had signed a minor league deal. Was fortunate enough to get the invite to big league camp, and even that, I was like, man, this is really cool. Like, I never thought I'd pitch in any sort of big league game, spring training or not. So just to get in those games and be in that environment again and really be comfortable in that environment again. I signed all kinds of deals from like 2012 to 17 with a lot of different teams trying to get back. And I just was never comfortable because I wasn't confident in what I was doing on the field. And so much of my identity, I guess, was tied up in that I just, even in a clubhouse setting, like anytime you're part of a team, like you want to be the guy who can pull his own weight. And I was terrible. I couldn't throw strikes, and I wasn't a contributor. So that just kind of makes you feel like you're just, added baggage or weight, that everybody else is having to take care of. So to be in the locker room this year, I knew I knew I was different on the mound. You know, obviously nothing was guaranteed as far as, you know, a job during the regular season, but I knew that, and I was okay with just coming out, being myself, and you know, wherever it took me. But yeah, and then you know, with the whole shutdown, it was a good thing for me, honestly. Like, it was a huge kind of blessing in disguise. I was able to go home, got a great group of guys to work out with. We had a stadium open to us, and was able to throw like 10 or 12 live BPs to, you know, AAA and big league hitters, and got tons of feedback. Got real comfortable with my repertoire and what I'm throwing now. And honestly, that was like, I mean, that to me, I guess, simulated the time that I would have, you know, had to spend in the minor leagues in some ways. So, huge blessing for me, in a weird way. But yeah, I'm just super happy to be back, and thankful to the Rockies for including me in the player pool to begin with, because they easily could have left me off. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more grateful for all the people that, you know, have allowed this to happen too.
Just to follow up, where did you go back to during the break?
Greenville, South Carolina.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Thomas Harding, go ahead.
Yes, congratulations, Daniel. Two questions. The first question, I watched you a couple times out here at Coors. That stuff looks nasty. How does your stuff play here? And do you have much experience pitching at an altitude? And how did it feel coming out of your hand, and how did the action feel?
Yeah, so I mean, you hear all the horror stories about nobody's pitches move the same, and there's definitely some truth to it. And I was kind of anxious to see what my stuff would look like at altitude. I got a little nervous. I playing catch the first couple days here last week. My sinker wasn't sinking at all, and then fortunately I got on a mound, and it had some sink. Maybe not exactly the same as at like sea level, but it definitely has enough movement to be a useful pitch. So, and then the other ones seem to be playing pretty fair. So I'm not too concerned about it.
And the other thing, this is one of the weirdest years, I guess, in baseball history. No fans in the stands. I know that sometimes various things happen when a guy loses location or whatever. Were fans being there ever a part of it, or was this the years that you struggled? Was that separate from, you know?
No, to be honest, I can even remember back some of my very worst outings were on backfields with about 4 people in the stands. So that had never had anything to do with it. I think it's an internal thing, something that goes on in your head, and it doesn't really matter how many people are watching. So it's a strange, very hard to describe thing that goes on with certain pitchers, certain guys. No, I don't think fans. I mean, if anything, I'm very accustomed to pitching with no fans. Given all the backfields I've had to throw on, and then, you know, pitching in the stadium back home over quarantine with no fans. So yeah, it's going to be weird for a lot of people, but I'll see that hitter in the box, the big league hitter in the box, and I think that's all I'm going to see.
Thank you very much, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
All right, Tim Brown, you've got the last question, and unless we get any other hands up.
Hi, Daniel. Couple quick ones for you. First, of all the people who have been on this journey these past 6 or 7 years with you, who's proudest of you today?
Probably my wife, without question. Mostly because I think she has had to live it the closest with me, and you know, I think going through. I mean, it's hard for me. Obviously, I get emotional thinking about it, but just thinking, you know, the support that she consistently offered me through my signing 5 or 6 different minor league deals without really having anything to show for it, to, you know, my decision to retire back in 2017, you know, and move on without without knowing what was next, and she couldn't have been more supportive. She might have been relieved at that point after all we'd been through.
What would she say to you that would maybe ease things for you or for her, maybe?
No, I mean, she was always, she always would say that, you know, as long as I felt like I had a chance, keep doing it. As long as you feel like you have a chance, keep doing it. And, you know, a lot of days I felt like I had a chance. You know, I think looking back on it, my best days I had during my previous struggles, the best days I had were not even close to my bad days now, is the way it feels. So that's a good feeling. But mostly, yeah, her support's been amazing. You know, can't leave out, you know, the friends and family. I've already got like probably a couple hundred texts in the past hour. Just people reaching out, saying they're happy for me. So support from friends and family's been really humbling.
If I could hit you with one more, in your role as a mental skills coach, you almost surely came across players, probably pitchers, who were dealing with some sort of anxiety, who weren't sure they belonged, who were, to use your word, feeling uncomfortable or not contributing like they thought they could. What was your advice to them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely had those cases, and you know, the thing about my role, I was pretty fortunate that the Diamondbacks offered that to me. I'm not, you know, trained as a psychologist or a sports psych guy in any way. I just had my own experiences to go off of, a lot of books I had read trying to fix myself, and things I'd done for my own self-help that I then tried to relay on to some younger guys within that organization. So, you know, it's a combination of things. I think I always tried to play it, get to know the person first before I just listened to his problems and slapped a prescription or, hey, try this. Just try to get to know them as a person, where they're coming from, who they want to be, what they're trying to do. You know, and kind of go from there. So it wasn't kind of a one size fits all. It's just, and sometimes I wasn't there to offer any solution. It was just to be a person sitting on the other side of the table that, you know, had been through maybe something similar and could just say, yeah, man, that's tough. Or, yeah, I know that feeling. It sucks. Or just hang in there, man. Like, you got good things coming. Like, sometimes having, you know, just like a mentor or somebody a little older than you that kind of feels what you're going through, just saying, yeah, I know what that feels like is means a lot. So I try to just start with that, and if it progressed to more, then we would go deeper. But sometimes it was just kind of being a friend, kind of playing that role.
Remind them how much courage it takes to stand out there and just try.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you haven't stood on not just a big league field, but, you know, it could be a minor league mound or a college mound. Either way, you got a bunch of eyes on you that matter to you. And if you stand out there and things don't feel right, or you feel like you feel completely unprepared for the situation, or like your abilities kind of betrayed you, like that's an unusual and a pretty terrible feeling. So it's good to know that other people have felt it too.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, Arnie Stapleton, you have the last question.
Daniel, first off, I don't know if you mentioned, what is your wife's name?
Wife's name is Adair, Adair.
Okay. And then secondly, you know, a lot of times when a player's making a comeback, usually from a physical injury, they really look forward to that first game or that first hit, if it's in football or that kind of thing. And in coming back like you are now, are you looking forward to that first game action? Is there anything that, you know, you just kind of a hump to get over, or you're eager to get through that, anything like that?
No, I haven't even gotten there yet. You know, in many ways, I think just getting on a mound, you know, in the spring training games back in March was as big a hurdle as any. You know, and then having the chance to pitch in these inter squad games, which, you know, I think, feel about like what a big league game's going to feel like. No fans in the seats, but we had, uniforms and umpires and all that stuff. So I'm sure it'll be a little more adrenaline once we get the real thing going next week. But I'll just, take it one step at a time and, trust that it's going to be similar to what's been going on.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. And congratulations again. Thanks everyone else for jumping on the call, and have a good night.
Thanks, guys.